The most successful people you have never heard of understood something that visible competitors miss. Winning loudly attracts resistance, envy, and sabotage, while winning invisibly creates unstoppable momentum before anyone realizes you are even playing. Strategic invisibility is not deception or manipulation, but deliberate choice about when to be visible and when to operate beneath notice, allowing you to build position, gather resources, develop skills, and create advantages while competitors waste energy on performative competition and visible status games that generate more resistance than results. This audiobook teaches 10 principles of strategic invisibility, revealing when and how to operate beneath notice, when visibility serves your interests versus when it creates unnecessary resistance, how to build real advantage while appearing unremarkable, and how to time your emergence for maximum impact. You will learn to recognize that attention is costly, not free, to build position before announcing intentions, to use others' underestimation as advantage, to operate in domains where competitors are not watching, to build quietly then launch loudly, to accumulate capabilities, not credentials, to time visibility strategically, to create value without claiming credit, to master what you reveal and conceal, and to know when invisibility has served its purpose and emergence creates more value than continued concealment. Masters of strategic invisibility understand that competition is not always direct visible contest, but often invisible accumulation of advantages that compound over time, creating overwhelming position that becomes apparent only when victory is already secured. Stop announcing your moves and start building invisible advantage. Stop competing for attention and start accumulating real capability. Master strategic invisibility and win before others realize you were even competing. Chapter 1. Attention is costly, not free. Strategic invisibility begins with understanding that attention is not neutral resource but costly liability that creates pressure, resistance, and constraints on your freedom to build and experiment. Most people treat attention as pure benefit, seeking visibility, validation, and recognition without calculating costs of being noticed. When others notice your progress, intentions, or advantages, they respond competitively, either by copying your approach, blocking your path, or actively working to undermine your success, creating resistance that would not exist if you remained invisible. Being watched creates pressure to perform, meet expectations, and justify your position before you are ready, forcing premature optimization, where you perfect visible performance rather than building genuine capability. Public visibility locks you into specific identity or approach, where changing direction or admitting mistakes becomes costly to reputation, while invisibility preserves flexibility, allowing you to pivot, adapt, or abandon approaches without explaining yourself to audience that remembers your previous positions. Visibility creates social obligations to maintain relationships, respond to requests, and manage others' expectations, consuming time and energy that could be invested in building actual capability. The pattern that emerges across domains is consistent. Visible progress attracts competitive blocking, while invisible progress allows unimpeded building. Visible building creates performance pressure, while invisible building allows genuine experimentation. Visible identity creates constraint, while invisible development preserves freedom. Visible success creates relationship obligations, while invisible work allows focused investment in capability. Strategic operators understand this pattern and choose invisibility during vulnerable building phases, not from cowardice, but from recognition that attention during building creates more costs than benefits. They seek attention strategically when position is secured and visibility serves clear purpose, not constantly as validation mechanism. The practical application requires auditing your current attention-seeking behaviors, asking whether visibility serves strategic purpose or satisfies need for validation. Identify one important project or skill development that you will pursue completely privately without sharing progress, posting about it, or seeking validation for a defined period. Notice how removing attention pressure changes your approach, risk tolerance, and rate of genuine progress. Strategic invisibility is not permanent hiding, but deliberate timing, where you control when others notice your work, rather than constantly performing for audience. Attention is spent strategically like any finite resource, not distributed freely to anyone who asks. Chapter 2. Build position before announcing intentions. Strategic invisible operators build overwhelming position before announcing intentions or revealing plans, ensuring that by the time others notice their move's competitive response is too late to prevent success. Announcing intentions early invites resistance, interference, and competitive blocking, while announcing after position is secure transforms announcement from invitation to competition into declaration of already accomplished victory. When you announce intentions before building capability or position, threatened parties can easily block your path by denying resources, creating obstacles, or rallying opposition, giving them time to organize defense while you are still vulnerable. Announcing novel approach or opportunity before you have secured advantage invites others to copy your strategy, often with more resources or better execution, and by the time you have built capability, market or opportunity may be crowded with competitors who would not have discovered it without your announcement. Public intentions create expectations that you must meet even if circumstances change or better approaches emerge, locking you into course of action that might be suboptimal and preventing strategic flexibility. Building invisibly preserves freedom to pivot or abandon approaches without explaining yourself to audience that remembers your announced plans. Repeatedly announcing intentions without visible results diminishes your credibility, making future announcements less impactful, while building invisibly then revealing accomplished results creates credibility and momentum where announcement is backed by proof, not just promise. The sequence that creates maximum advantage is silent capability development, where you build skills, gather resources, develop expertise, and create systems completely privately, followed by quiet positioning, where you arrange relationships and opportunities without broadcasting strategy. Then decisive execution, where speed is possible because preparation was invisible. And finally, strategic announcement only after success is secured or advantage is overwhelming. Consider entrepreneur building new product, where visible approach announces intention to build revolutionary product, seeking validation, attention, and early adopters before product exists, inviting competition from better resourced players who copy approach and capture market. Invisible approach silently builds product to completion, securing initial customers and proving model before any public announcement. And when announcement finally comes, product is proven, customers exist, and competitive response is too late because market position is secured. The practical application requires identifying your most important current goal and asking whether announcing this goal publicly has invited any resistance, copying, or competitive blocking, and what would change if you pursued this goal in complete silence until results were secured. For next significant goal, commit to invisible building, where you share intentions only with direct collaborators who must know, not with broader network or public audience. Chapter 3. Let others underestimate you and use it as advantage. Strategic invisibility embraces being underestimated, recognizing that others' low expectations create space for you to operate freely, build capability, and achieve results without the pressure, scrutiny, and resistance that comes from being seen as a serious threat. When others underestimate you, they do not see you as a competitive threat and therefore do not mobilize defensive resources to block you, granting access, sharing information, and creating opportunities they would never provide to recognized competitor. Their underestimation gives you access to resources and positioning that would be denied if they accurately assessed your capability or ambition. Low expectations mean that modest results are seen as impressive, while poor results are quickly forgiven, creating asymmetric risk-reward, where your successes are amplified by contrast with expectations while failures are minimized. Being underestimated means your success is always surprising, therefore always more impactful, creating psychological effect far greater than if success was expected. When expectations are low, meeting or exceeding them is easy, creating perception of exceptional performance and building reputation faster than if expectations were high, requiring exceptional performance to merely meet them. Strategic invisible operators prefer to exceed low expectations than struggle to meet high ones. The cultivation of underestimation requires avoiding displays of capability that would raise expectations, including dressing modestly, speaking humbly, and presenting yourself as less capable than you are without being dishonest. When asked about accomplishments, provide factual, modest responses rather than impressive narratives, not lying about what you have done, but not embellishing or emphasizing achievements in ways that raise others' assessment of your threat level. Ask questions even when you know answers, creating impression of learning while actually gathering information about others' thinking and positioning. Allow others to take credit or share credit generously, maintaining your underestimated position while potentially creating allies who feel indebted to you. Being underestimated is advantage until it prevents you from accessing resources, opportunities, or relationships that require demonstrated capability. And the art is knowing when underestimation has served its purpose and strategic revelation becomes more valuable than continued invisibility. Correct underestimation when you need to access opportunities that require demonstrated credibility. When you have secured position, and underestimation no longer provides protection. When revealing capability creates deterrent effect, preventing future competition, or when maintaining underestimation would limit your growth. The practical application requires identifying one area where others underestimate you, and instead of immediately correcting their perception, asking how you can use this underestimation to your advantage and what access or opportunities it creates, and how long you should preserve this perception before revealing true capability. Strategic humility in one domain where you are highly capable. Create space to operate freely and over-deliver, creating stronger impression than if you had signaled capability from beginning. Chapter 4. Operate in domains where others are not watching. Strategic invisibility maximizes advantage by operating in domains, markets, or skill areas where competitors are not paying attention, allowing you to build overwhelming position before anyone realizes those domains are valuable. When you are only player in domain, you capture all available value rather than splitting it with competitors, and can learn from every mistake without competitors capitalizing on your errors. You can iterate and improve without pressure to beat someone else. To market and unwatched domains allow exponential progress because you are not spending energy competing, just building. Being first to recognize valuable domain gives you time to build network effects, establish standards, and create switching costs before competitors arrive, and by the time others notice the domain is valuable, you have already secured position that makes competing with you extremely difficult, even if they have more resources. Domains that are currently unwatched will eventually attract attention as value becomes apparent, and strategic invisibility means being positioned before attention arrives so that when others finally notice, you already control the territory, benefiting from their attention to domain without suffering from their competition because your position is already secure. In unwatched domains, there are no established best practices or competitive standards, allowing you to define how the domain works, what metrics matter, and what success looks like. And when competitors eventually arrive, they are playing by rules you established, giving you structural advantage. Valuable unwatched domains often exist at intersection of 2 or 3 trends that are individually recognized, but whose combination is not yet obvious, where each trend has attention but intersection has none, and strategic operators identify these intersections before they become obvious, creating new category where they are only player. Domains you find intrinsically interesting but others dismiss as unimportant or niche often become valuable over time, and your genuine interest sustains effort, while others ignore domain, allowing you by the time domain becomes recognized as valuable to have years of accumulated expertise and position. Skills or knowledge areas that are currently not prestigious or well compensated, but are becoming more important. Create unwatched domains and building expertise in currently undervalued but increasingly important skills means you will be expert when demand catches up to importance. The practical application requires identifying 3 domains or skill areas that you find interesting, but that others seem to dismiss or ignore, and asking whether any of these could become valuable over the next 3 to 5 years, and whether you can build meaningful capability in this domain while others are not paying attention. Choose one unwatched domain and commit to building expertise over the next 12 months without announcing this focus or seeking recognition for it, simply building capability quietly and observing whether domain increases in importance over time. Chapter 5. Build quietly, launch loudly. Strategic invisibility inverts typical pattern of loud announcements followed by quiet building, instead building in complete silence, then launching with maximum visible impact when product capability or position is complete. Building publicly invites competitors to copy your approach, block your access to resources, or launch competing products before you are ready, while silent building means your product or capability is complete before competitors know to respond, and by the time they see what you have built, it is already finished. And defensive response is too late. When no one is watching, you can change direction, pivot approaches, or abandon failed experiments without explaining yourself or damaging credibility, while public building creates expectations that limit flexibility because changing course requires admitting previous approach was wrong. When you build silently and launch loudly, the gap between nothing and complete product is shocking, creating dramatic reveal that generates more impact than gradual visible progress, where people become accustomed to your building and lose sense of how impressive final result is. Launching loudly after silent building means you choose moment of visibility when you are maximally prepared to handle attention, answer questions, and capitalize on interest rather than being forced into visibility before you are ready, as happens with public building where attention comes during vulnerable early stages. The sequence that creates maximum advantage is completely silent building, where you develop product capability or position in complete privacy sharing only with absolutely necessary collaborators, followed by private testing with small controlled group who provide feedback without broadcasting to broader market. Then launch preparation where all materials, messaging, positioning, and distribution are ready before going public. Then coordinated loud launch simultaneously across all channels with complete product, creating single moment of high impact visibility where you go from unknown to unavoidable in single coordinated reveal. And finally, sustained visibility through value delivery where your loud launch created initial attention and continued value converts that attention into lasting success. Common mistakes include building too publicly, which creates engagement but invites competition, limits flexibility, and diminishes impact of final reveal. Launching too quietly after building in silence, which wastes advantage of having complete product ready for visibility. And launching prematurely, where pressure to be visible causes launch before product is ready, combining worst of both approaches, where you lose invisibility protection before building is complete and launch without having completed product to justify attention. The practical application requires identifying one project or product you are currently building and asking whether you are building this too publicly, and would you be able to move faster and more effectively if you worked in complete silence, and what would change if you committed to not sharing any progress until project is completely finished. For your next significant project, commit to completely silent building, where you set specific criteria for launch-ready state and refuse to share any progress until those criteria are met. Then launch with coordinated maximum visibility across all relevant channels. Chapter 6. Accumulate capabilities, not credentials. Strategic invisibility focuses on building real capabilities that create actual competitive advantage rather than pursuing visible credentials that signal capability without necessarily creating it. Real capability means you can actually perform tasks, solve problems, or create value that others cannot, while credentials signal that you might have capability, but do not guarantee actual performance. In competitive situations, real capability wins while credentials without capability fails, and strategic operators choose substance over signal. Everyone pursues visible credentials because they are clearly defined and socially validated, making capability building path less competitive than credential pursuing path and creating space for those who choose it. Skills and knowledge build on each other, creating exponential growth in capability over time, where each new skill multiplies effectiveness of existing skills, creating combinatorial advantage, while credentials do not compound, as having 2 degrees does not make you exponentially more capable, but having 2 complementary skills creates multiplicative value. Credentials can be copied as competitors can get same degrees or certifications, but deep capabilities built through years of practice and synthesis are much harder to replicate, and your unique combination of capabilities and how you deploy them creates defensible competitive advantage that credentials alone cannot provide. Real capabilities open doors that credentials cannot, as when you can actually solve problems or create value, opportunities emerge organically, and you do not need credentials to prove capability when you can demonstrate it directly through results. The capability accumulation requires choosing skills that compound by prioritizing learning skills that enhance other skills or apply across multiple domains, such as writing, which improves thinking, or systems thinking, which improves problem solving, as these meta skills multiply effectiveness across all activities. Built through doing, not studying, where real capability comes from application, not consumption, and rather than taking courses or reading about skill, you create projects that force you to develop skill through use, building deeper capability than passive learning. Consider building capabilities across multiple domains and creating value through unique synthesis, where your competitive advantage is not being best in one domain, but being uniquely capable across combination that no one else has. Measure yourself by results, not recognition, by tracking your capability development through actual outcomes you achieve, problems you solve, or value you create, rather than through credentials and or recognition received as results prove capability while credentials merely suggest it. The practical application requires auditing your current development activities, asking what percentage of effort goes to building credentials versus building capabilities, and whether you are taking courses or getting certifications to signal capability you do not yet have, and could that time be better spent building actual capability through practice and application. Identify 3 capabilities that would create significant advantage in your field if you develop them deeply, and commit to 6 months of intensive capability building through application, not study without seeking credential or recognition for these capabilities, simply building them and measuring progress through results achieved. Chapter 7. Time your visibility for maximum impact. Strategic invisibility is not permanent absence, but deliberate timing of visibility for moments when it creates maximum advantage. While most people are constantly visible seeking ongoing attention, validation, and recognition, strategic invisible operators remain unseen until specific moments when visibility serves clear strategic purpose, then emerge with concentrated impact before returning to invisibility, creating perception of sudden appearance that makes each visible moment more impactful than constant presence would be. Rare visibility is more valued than constant visibility, as when you are always present, people stop paying attention, but when you appear rarely but impactfully, each appearance commands attention, and strategic invisibility creates scarcity of your presence, making your visible moments more powerful. When you choose moment of visibility, you control context and narrative around your appearance, where constant visibility means you are reactive, responding to others, while timed visibility means you appear when you have something worth sharing, making each appearance purposeful, not reactive. Maintaining constant visibility is exhausting, requiring continuous performance, while strategic invisible operators conserve energy by being invisible most of time, allowing them to invest full energy in carefully timed moments of high-impact visibility. Different moments offer different advantages for visibility, where being visible when you have completed major achievement creates momentum. Being visible when opportunity arises allows you to capitalize, and being visible when competitors are distracted allows you to position without resistance. The strategic moments for visibility include after major achievement, where you remain invisible while building, then become visible after achievement is complete, sharing completed success rather than ongoing effort. When you need specific resources, where you time visibility to coincide with need for funding, partnership, or collaboration, then return to invisibility once resources are secured. When competitors are distracted, where strategic visibility while they are focused elsewhere allows positioning without direct competition. When you can define new category, where timing visibility to position yourself as category creator captures enormous advantage. And when timing creates urgency, where visibility combined with time constraint drives action that ongoing visibility would not generate. The execution of timed visibility requires extended invisibility, where you operate below notice for extended period, building capability without any visibility, including social media or public appearances, followed by visibility preparation, where you prepare everything needed for high-impact visibility before emerging so execution is flawless, not scrambled. Then concentrated emergence, where you become visible across multiple channels, simultaneously creating burst of attention, then sustained engagement for limited window, where you remain accessible to capitalize on attention and build relationships. And finally, strategic withdrawal, where you deliberately return to invisibility after window closes, preserving scarcity and allowing you to build next achievement. The practical application requires mapping your next 12 months, identifying key moments that would be optimal for visibility based on your goals and context, including product launches, project completions, or moments when stakeholder attention is available, and planning to be invisible except during these strategic moments. Practice strategic withdrawal after periods of visibility, where after completing project or appearing publicly, you deliberately reduce visibility and return to building mode, noticing how this affects perception of your subsequent appearances. Chapter 8. Create value without claiming credit. Strategic invisibility achieves influence and power through creating value for others without requiring public recognition or credit, building deep invisible networks of goodwill, obligation, and respect that create advantages unavailable to those who constantly claim credit for their contributions. When you create significant value for someone without demanding credit, they feel genuine obligation to reciprocate, and this obligation is stronger than transactional exchange, because it is based on generosity, not contract, where people who feel genuinely indebted are powerful allies when you need support. Constantly claiming credit makes you appear self-promotional and creates resentment from those who feel their contributions are overlooked, and this resistance limits your ability to influence and collaborate, while creating value without credit avoids resistance while still delivering impact. When your value creation is invisible, it cannot be easily copied or blocked by competitors, as visible credited achievements attract competition and countermeasures, while invisible value creation compounds without interference because others do not realize they should be competing with or blocking you. When you do not require sole credit, multiple people can claim ownership or contribution, creating multiple champions for your work who promote and protect it, because they have vested interest in its success, while requiring sole credit creates single champion, which is you, but unclaimed value creates many champions. Strategic invisible operators have internal scorecard, not external scorecard, where you know what value you created and what impact you achieved, and external recognition is pleasant, but not necessary, because your own knowledge of accomplishment provides satisfaction and confidence. The methods of creating value without credit include making others look good by creating work presentations or results that make collaborators look competent and successful, where when they succeed they remember who made that possible, even if public credit went to them, creating powerful invisible loyalty. Solve problems no one knows about by identifying and fixing issues before they become visible crises, where no one knows these problems existed, so no one knows you solved them. But organizational performance improves, building reputation as someone who makes things work without drama. Enable others' success by providing resources, insights, connections, or support that enable others to achieve success they could not reach alone, and when they succeed, they know they could not have done it without your invisible support, even if external observers credit only them, creating deep gratitude. Share ideas freely, where when you have valuable insight or approach, you share it without demanding attribution, and ideas that spread and create value without your name attached still generate impact, where some who use your ideas will remember source and become allies. The practical application requires identifying one significant way you can create value for someone important to your goals, and creating that value without announcing it or seeking credit, simply delivering the value and noticing how recipient responds, and whether invisible generosity creates stronger relationship than credited contribution would have. Practice letting others take credit for work you contributed to, and notice whether this creates resentment or liberation, where strategic operators learn to feel satisfaction from impact achieved regardless of who receives credit, making them free to create value without ego constraints. Chapter 9. Master strategic disclosure. Strategic invisibility requires sophisticated judgment about what information to reveal and what to conceal, recognizing that complete transparency is often harmful to your interests, while complete secrecy is impractical and can create distrust. Every piece of information you reveal about your capabilities, intentions, resources, or strategies allows competitors to formulate countermeasures, and strategic operators reveal information that positions them favorably while concealing information that would enable competitors to block or copy their approach. What others know about you creates expectations about your behavior and likely moves, and strategic management of these expectations allows you to operate with greater flexibility, because others cannot perfectly predict what you will do based on what they know. Same information might benefit you when shared with potential collaborators, but harm you when known to competitors, and strategic disclosure means sharing selectively with those who can use information to mutual benefit while concealing from those who would use it against you. Once information is public, you cannot make it private again, creating asymmetric risk, where concealing information until strategic moment has minimal cost, but premature revelation can be catastrophic, making the default position when in doubt to not share. The categories requiring strategic management include capabilities and skills, where you conceal capabilities that give you advantage if competitors underestimate you, but reveal capabilities that attract opportunities or deter competition when known. Intentions and plans, where you conceal specific plans that could be blocked if known before execution, but reveal general direction when you need to attract collaborators. Resources and assets, where you conceal resources that would make you target if known, but reveal resources that create credibility. Relationships and networks, where you conceal relationships that give you information advantage, but reveal relationships that create social proof. And weaknesses and vulnerabilities, where you conceal critical vulnerabilities that competitors could exploit, but reveal non-critical weaknesses when seeking help or building trust. The disclosure decision framework requires asking what happens if you reveal this information, identifying who benefits and what actions they might take, and whether revelation creates opportunities or vulnerabilities. asking what happens if you conceal this information, identifying what opportunities you might miss, and whether concealment creates distrust, asking whether you can reveal partially rather than completely, identifying minimum necessary disclosure to achieve goal, and asking whether this is optimal timing for revelation, considering whether waiting would strengthen your position. The practical application requires auditing what you have recently shared publicly, and for each piece of information, asking whether revealing this advanced your interests, and whether competitors could use this against you, and whether you could have achieved same goals while revealing less. For your next significant project, explicitly decide before starting what information you will reveal to whom and when, creating disclosure plan, rather than sharing reactively, where strategic information management is not lying or deceiving, but being truthful while being selective about what you reveal and when. Chapter 10. Know when to emerge. Strategic invisibility is not permanent state, but deliberate phase before strategic emergence, and the ultimate skill is knowing when invisibility has served its purpose and when emergence creates more value than continued concealment. If you emerge before building sufficient capability, position, or resources, you sacrifice protection that invisibility provides without having secured advantages that justify visibility, where competitors can still block you and you face scrutiny before you are ready to withstand it, combining worst of both approaches. If you remain invisible after building overwhelming advantage, you may miss window when visibility would capture maximum value as markets change, opportunities close, and timing windows pass, where remaining invisible when you should emerge means leaving value unclaimed and allowing less prepared competitors to capture opportunities you should own. When you emerge at right moment with sufficient preparation, your success appears inevitable. Not surprising, where observers see someone who suddenly appeared fully formed with capabilities that make competition futile, and this perception of inevitability creates momentum where success compounds because everyone wants to align with obvious winner. The signals indicating time to emerge include when you have overwhelming capability advantage, where your capabilities are so superior that visibility cannot enable competitors to catch up, making invisibility protection no longer necessary, and emergence safe and potentially beneficial for capturing opportunities. When you control critical resources or relationships, where you control assets that competitors cannot replicate, making visibility unable to dislodge you from advantage position. When your invisibility is limiting growth, where remaining invisible prevents you from accessing opportunities that would accelerate growth, and cost of invisibility exceeds benefit. When market or opportunity window is opening, where external circumstances create optimal moment for your offering, and timing emergence to coincide with market readiness amplifies success. When competitors are distracted or vulnerable, where your emergence faces less resistance when they are dealing with challenges, and when you have built coalition of support, where critical mass of supporters will amplify your emergence, multiplying impact. The execution of strategic emergence requires pre-emergence preparation, where you complete final building, ensuring everything is ready for public scrutiny. Prepare messaging and positioning, crafting clear, compelling narrative. Identify key stakeholders, mapping everyone who should know about your emergence. Build distribution channels, establishing platforms ready to activate simultaneously. And secure early validators, getting testimonials from credible sources. Then coordinated emergence happens through simultaneous multi-channel launch, creating sense of sudden unavoidable presence, leading with strongest evidence, immediately demonstrating why you matter. Controlling initial narrative, using first moments to position yourself strategically, and engaging high-priority stakeholders directly through personal outreach. Post-emergence consolidation requires delivering on promises quickly, building credibility, building on initial attention, creating additional opportunities, transitioning to sustainable visibility, finding appropriate ongoing level, and considering strategic re-invisibility, where you may return to partial invisibility after capturing value, knowing you can emerge multiple times across career. The practical application requires defining specific criteria that would indicate time to emerge, including what capabilities you must develop, what position you must secure, and what external signals would indicate optimal timing, creating clear emergence criteria that prevents both premature and delayed emergence. Strategic invisibility creates paradox, where by choosing not to compete visibly, you often win more decisively than visible competitors. By operating beneath notice, you build advantages impossible under scrutiny. By being underestimated, you create space to develop capabilities that would trigger resistance if recognized. And by timing visibility strategically, you make each visible moment more impactful than constant attention ever could. The masters understand fundamental truth that in competitive environments being watched is handicap not advantage, where attention creates resistance, scrutiny creates pressure, and visibility creates competition, while strategic invisibility removes these handicaps, allowing you to build freely and emerge powerfully. This is not permanent hiding, but strategic timing where you are not invisible forever, but invisible until the moment when visibility serves your purpose. You are not avoiding competition, but redefining it from visible performance contest to invisible capability accumulation. You do not seek to be unknown, but rather to be underestimated until you are overwhelming. The ultimate strategic invisibility is this. By the time your competitors notice you are competing, you have already won, where they see your emergence and believe you suddenly appeared, not understanding that what appears sudden was years in invisible making. They try to compete with your visible success, never seeing the invisible foundation that makes that success defensible. They watch your performance, never understanding the invisible practice that made performance effortless. Stop announcing your plans. Stop seeking validation. Stop performing for audience. Start building in silence. Start accumulating invisible advantages. Start timing your visibility strategically. Master strategic invisibility and win before others know you are playing.